Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's
Welcome
go.
back, traders. We have an
I'll
absolute
wake up to
banger
one.
going over AMC and GameStop. I'll save AMC towards the end. I will link a timestamp for you guys to jump in there if you don't care about GME or IWM, but you know how it is. We like to start with going over the Fear and Greed Index because that will give you the market sentiment that you need to go and chart whatever you want to chart, honestly, because we know we buy the fear and we sell the greed here, not financial advice. You have crypto in 9. That is absolutely abysmal. The stock market sitting at 46, which is pretty much net neutral, right? But you look at IWM, and even though you're sitting net neutral, IWM still on the way to pushing all-time highs. You saw a little bit of a channel from this all-time high shooting star candle or doji. And then you broke out of that channel with a very, very, very strong, almost 4% daily candle. And you've been on this steady grind up, which we know, right? Every single time that IWM is pushing all-time highs, that is genuinely a good friggin' sign for GameStop and AMC because that helps aid along multiple buying pressures. Right. And apologies for not being here in a couple of days, guys. I got 103-degree fever and some kind of flu just absolutely knocked me out. But I'm glad to be back here for you guys, cooking with grease and just feeling better in general, right? So God bless you guys. Thank you for waiting. You saw a pretty obvious rejection candle here in IWM. So I do anticipate if you're not able to rebound tomorrow that IWM sees a little bit of a breather here to potentially come back down to this trend line that you've established from this double tap here. I do think you could either come back for a breather here at 263 or further down to retest the channel that you broke out of, right? That would give a nice little opportunity for the RSI to cool down here, maybe to the 50 line before seeing the bull zone, which I do anticipate you to see somewhere along the top region of this channel, right? Because that is the end goal, right? End goal on IWM is to break above 300 for the first time in its history, because that is what we like to call a little bit of razzle dazzle risk on asset market. So beautiful, beautiful thing for AMC and GameStop. Now, before we get into GameStop, I just want to give a little shout out to my boy Stockfather on X here, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, right? Stockfather said GME, net income history. And I felt like this just gave a really, really solid history or historical outlook on GameStop's net earnings, right? You look at what your net income was or your cash flow, 2018 minus 738 million, 2019 470, 215, 381. And then Ryan Cohen becomes CEO, right? And we get a little drum roll action going. We get smart business cost cutting, and you go from 6.7 million first year, 131 million, and then now an unresolved or unconfirmed $500 million on the stock. And you have other things, right? Michael Burry saying he's in. You have possible, right? Very, very possible and probable acquisitions that the company is going to do. Just gets me absolutely jacked and excited for what is to come here. But as we get into the GameStop stock chart, I just want to say, if you guys are not already, slap the subscribe button and let's jump straight into it, right? So, GameStop. GME, you did something that was super, super crazy, super, super important, which was breaking out of this almost year-long consolidation falling wedge. Now, from breaking out of that, you saw a rejection of your previous uptrend that you had been in since July of 2024. You rode that uptrend all the way until October, rejected once in December, came back down for a double bottom, which was bullishly divergent. That's what we called here. Even though it wasn't with our initial thesis, which I hypothesized that you would come down to this lower part of the wedge. You did not. Inevitably, you made this bullish div, flat bottom, higher high or higher low, right? And from that, you saw a pretty nasty move already, breaking you outside of this falling wedge. And now all you've been doing, to be honest, truthfully, guys, you've been consolidating and establishing your past range as support once again as new support, right? So this same range that you were trading in all last year saw rejection. You're now trading on top of again. So that is inherently a very, very, very good sign for bulls here. And although you can see a little bit of a slowdown in price momentum, I'm not worried here as long as you hold two things, right? As long as you hold this neckline sitting at $24 flat, and as well you hold this previous support uptrend, I'm not worried at all, right? There's a couple different things that go into this, but another good thing that you've been doing is you've held the 9-day EMA frequently, consistently, riding it like a worm, right? Like a bull, riding it all the way up here, and you've consistently wicked off and closed above it. That is a very, very good sign that the short-term momentum is in the bull's favor. The only thing I will say is, as you consolidate here, as you consolidate lower, you're also seeing a pretty nice volume exhaustion from sellers. So in that being the case, right, I would expect if you're going to break out here, I would expect a very, very nice volume pump going in to the latter half of the week, right? If this is going to be truly that breakout of the GME falling wedge, I want to see volume continue to step in here and hopefully avoid these signs of weaknesses. Now, I wanted to also talk about what is possible because this thing could go either way, right? This thing could go and retest your 200-day EMA sitting at 2340. You could retest your 50 sitting at 2283. And then, of course, it would absolutely suck, but it is possible, in my opinion, not probable, but possible that you come all the way down here to fill these gaps sitting at 21.25 and then 21.93, right? And in doing so, you might do one of these where you kind of fail to break out, fill these gaps, and get the full retest of your falling wedge before making that crazy, crazy move. And although that would suck to see, right? In the retrospect of things, you've held this long. You can see in doing so, you would fill both gaps and you would make a technical higher low in the stock chart. So honestly, I'm not complaining either way. I think you could come even as low as back into the wedge and still remain bullish because you'd have this 3 rising valleys formation. And that would be Picasso, right? That would be crisp. That would be one of the most beautiful buying opportunities we've had on GameStop in quite some time. Not to say that it's going to happen, but these are some of the multiple different scenarios in which I'm watching for here on GME because you have so much spiraling around this stock in terms of fundamental news, amazing earnings, and technical breakouts that anything is possible. And I just want to outline that if you hold in this range, right? Like we said, hold above 24, break out of this local high, and you hold above the 200-day EMA, you would be bound to get a golden cross for the first time, truthfully, guys, since back here in 2024. We know that we had a little flirt with it, right? You had a breakdown, a death cross, and then almost a golden cross. You got faked out here on GME. But you have a unique opportunity here to see a breakout of a falling wedge and a daily golden cross on the charts. It looks very, very good here, guys, regardless of what happens in the next month. I really don't care as long as you hold this range, right? The technicals look really solid. We talked about on GME on the weekly time frame, you got a beautiful cross up on your weekly MACD, and that came with a nice little relief here in price action, up 25%, which is beautiful. And in doing so on the monthly time frame, you're getting very, very close here, guys, to getting a potential monthly MACD cross. Now, this is what got me re-jacked. This is what got me re-interested in the stock back here at the lows. As you saw, you crossed up on the freaking monthly MACD as you went into this insane from the bottom to the top wick candle of a 500% move. I don't think it was a coincidence, right? I think that these markets move very cyclically, although not fractally like a lot of people believe. Not quite there yet, but I do believe cyclically off of these macro indicators. So the monthly MACD is honestly one of the best, in my opinion, macro charting indicators that I like to watch. Same with the weekly. I just love the MACD in general. So watching that closely. And before we get into all of that, guys, just want to say genuinely thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love and appreciate each and every single one of you guys. Slap the subscribe button. Let's go. All right. The Gme warrants. I've been getting a lot of requests. I know who you are out there on covering the Gme warrants. And we had covered way back when. When was this? Like back in beginning of January, end of December, that you were within this falling wedge on the warrants. Now, I did not expect you to go as haywire, as crazy as you did, but you saw a pretty nice relief bounce and filled a gap that I believe was up here in the high threes, right? Now you found a little bit of rejection, making a doji candle and another doji. And that does not spell the end of the upside here. You could totally smash through this and go back to $6. But I'm watching closely here at the volume profile, right? The same way you saw a very, very peak volume here and then a trickle down. Just watching the same thing here, right? Peak volume and then at the top, trickle down. So you could see this very scary double top formation here. Or you could be within this kind of wedge formation, whether it be rising wedge or whatever it may be. It's all you really have based off of the short allotted amount of trading that this thing has done, right? I mean, it's only been a ticker since October of last year, but you're making consistent higher lows and higher highs. So I honestly don't have a problem there. You're making some very bullish price action, and you're holding the 9-day EMA just like GME. So honestly, this could be just another consolidation period before you absolutely rip you know what, right? Maybe you're flagging out. Possible. If that was a flag, your price target would be pretty radical, pretty crazy. 660 and an all-time high. And that does honestly give you the opportunity, if this is some kind of cup with handle, right? Maybe you see a little bit more of a drawdown and it's a cup with handle. That price target from the bottom, you would take from the bottom to the neckline on the breakout of the handle. That gives you right around 660. So a lot of different opportunities here on the GME warrants. I do genuinely love the way that GameStop is set up, and the warrants kind of just trail along with that. So I think I would not be, personally, not financial advice, I would not be buying at these levels, right? You're highly inflated and highly likely to come down to at least the 50 here at 350. But I think as you come back, right, because you left a gap here sitting at 329, I think that would be an amazing area to pick up shares or to potentially average down. So that's what I'm watching on the GME warrants. Love the price action. The structure, if you can hold these levels, is bullish, genuinely. And you're making higher highs, right? Higher high. The next thing I want to talk about was AMC. And although absolutely abysmal, right? You made another low, all-time low on the chart. You are still holding this macro channel, right? And even though there was announced dilution, the stock did not drop that much. You dropped about 9%, whereas least, right, this thing is in the past drawn like this down from those kind of dilution news. So in my opinion, not financial advice, after seeing how crazily shorted this thing has been, the price action to the downside may already have been priced in. And that is the best case scenario, right? If this is already priced in, you then have the opportunity to catch shorts with their pants down, because looking at AMC, the absolutely most insane metric I think I've ever seen on this stock is 27% short interest ratio. That means almost a third of the entire float is sold short right now. That is absolutely insane and honestly unsustainable from a short selling standpoint, because almost nothing is naturally or organically short sold 30%. It just does not frequently happen at all. So I do expect, if you are able to find any sort of bullish momentum or bid here at the lows, considering that your short interest is the highest it has been in the last 5 years while being at an all-time low, that means they're actively looking to drive this thing lower. All it takes is one snap to break the camel's back and to send this thing 30, 40, 50% higher as shorts look to get out, right? And honestly, if you can start a steady grind up after this news, whatever dilution, if it's over, right? If you can start that steady grind up and you hold a lot of these shorts below their cost average, that would begin to get a little squeezy. But for now, right, we're still looking for a bounce off of this bottom side of the channel, right? Because every single time in the past that you've touched this bottom, you've gone to the top. Touched the bottom, gone to the top. Now you've touched the bottom and you failed. And you're looking, hopefully, to retest your all-time low previously of $2 and I think 5 cents, $2.04. Yeah, $2.05. So that is your previous all-time low. I do anticipate you're going to make some kind of rebound to it, and how you react to testing your previous all-time low, guys, in my opinion, is going to determine the more macro setup for Amy. Because if you reject here, right, you're setting yourself up for another all-time low. That would be no bueno, and I would actively hate to see that. But if you guys see a breakout, right, you could potentially see one of these shoulder, cup, shoulder, and then a break of the broader structure here, which would take you, drum roll, into the 200-day EMA for the first time in what feels like forever. Now sitting at 259, guys. Just a heads up, AMC has not been above its 200-day EMA, which oftentimes on the macro strikes a stock as bullish since, I don't count that because that was a wick. I don't count that because that was a wick since August of 2022. So you have, on the macro, not been bullish on AMC since August of 2022. That's the kind of momentum and like macro picture we're looking at here on AMC, because you've been so dramatically oversold here and you have such a high short interest. It is only a matter of time, guys, before something gives, right? I don't think it's going bankrupt anytime soon, so something has to give. You can't just continuously increase the short interest to 30%. That's insane. AMC, let's see. I just want to take a look at the macro on AMC as you continue. That is actually kind of crazy. I don't know why I said actually that way. Actually. You have another touch of bullish divergence here, now making 1, 2, 3, and your fourth touch of bullish div on the daily time frame, which to me is speaking that you're going to find a bounce here eventually. And you formed a sort of wedge formation here, right? Seeing this wedge formation. For me, that does speak bullish, seeing as though you are making higher lows on the RSI of the daily time frame, lower lows on the price action. To me, that does spell a good sign of bottom, but I want to see not just the candlestick formations, right? Because I do think tomorrow you see a lower low because of a shooting star candlestick. The stock could not hold its own whatsoever. So maybe you trail down tomorrow into 129. Who knows, right? God knows. But eventually within this falling wedge, that is a bullish reversal pattern that should take you higher, in my opinion. So I do think that this is some kind of bottoming formation on Amy, which is a good sign, genuinely. Let's look up AMC on Webull because I want to see what the volume profile looks like. So really, really, really low volume here on Amy today. That's actually kind of insane. 22 million shares traded, 38 million shares the previous day. So your volume is exhausting from the bearish point of view. Now, if you see one more trading day after this, right? Maybe tomorrow opens up, you do 18 million shares traded, and you close with a doji. That is the kind of trading day that I'm looking for, as a doji like this would show indecision, exhaustion, and a lower day price action along with lower shares traded, to me, would show a bullish reversal around the corner. So that's what I'm watching for Amy. We will see what happens inevitably, but I just want to say I do believe that the best is yet to come. I don't think that this thing is just going to do one of these. Right? Although possible, anything's possible. I don't think that's probable at all. And so I think that the worst of the sell-off has already occurred. And I kind of like the risk to reward on the company right now, especially if you are picking up shares towards the latter half of this move, right? Currently sitting at all-time lows. I think your fear and greed sentiment, if that could be weighed on AMC, is ridiculously fearful. Ridiculously fearful. So buy the fear, not financial advice. Let's see. Just as a special request from someone that gave me a shout out the other day, someone asked me to chart up Plug, and I wanted to stay true to you guys. But before I do so, for anyone who's not interested in Plug, I just want to say thank you guys. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will continue to hopefully be here every single day, twice a day if I can, right? But I just want to say thank you guys, genuinely from the bottom of my heart. God bless you. Now, exit the chat if you want, but I promised this guy that I would chart Plug, and that's what I'm going to do. So Plug, you have a pretty interesting setup, right? You failed to hold this 3 rising valleys. You failed to hold this uptrend. But what you've done in the meantime is you've created a solid base at $2, right? You've created a very, very solid base at $2. And in doing so, you've created this inverted head and shoulders pattern, which is beautiful for a macro reversal. And if I wanted to get that beautiful, beautiful neckline, right? Taking the neckline there. I'm taking the move. And I'm sticking that on top of your neckline. Now, to me, that brings you up to $16. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen. But I do really, really like the stock's momentum here. Outside of this falling resistance, you broke free, went all the way up to $4. Now you're consolidating at a base at a higher low perspective, while also on the macro forming this inverted head and shoulders. Now, what you can do and how you can see this is, in my eyes, is a potential bump and run, right? You see a old historical pattern coming back into play. And the only way I think I could put this into perspective for you guys is bullish bump and run. And this is how I wanted you guys to see it, right? A bullish bump and run would look something like this, where an old trend line falls into capitulation. You see this inverted head and shoulders, and then you run, right? You break it finally after forever. That is kind of what you are doing on Plug, right? Old trend line after forever. Capitulation, inverted head and shoulders. You break a interim trend line. Now, whether or not you come back to test this, who knows, right? You could create some kind of falling wedge here on the micro. But I do really like this formation for a potential bump and run all the way up to $16 to $18 to $32. I do believe that is possible. However, Plug is just much more of a risky play. So on the interim, you're watching for this trend line to break. And of course, there is that possibility for a falling wedge or some kind of micro pattern here, right? So that's what we're watching for on Plug. I like this setup of the inverted head and shoulders, but for those who are just here for AMC and GameStop, I love each and every single one of you guys. Slap the subscribe button and tune in for tomorrow's video. And remember, the best is yet to come. Love you, Kyle.